Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, October 13th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Iowa game is in 9 days, the game against Michigan in 44 days. The Buckeye football team is off this week, which means a bunch of Ohio State coaches have been on the road already this week visiting with prospects. We're also at the midway point of the regular season, which means there are a bunch of official visits that have already gone on or are going on this weekend or are going to be coming up in the next few weeks. So it seemed like a great time to check in with our old buddy, Alex Gleitman. He has been killing it on the recruiting beat at BuckeyeHuddle.com. He's had a bunch of great information this week in his ADEC column. We're going to talk about some of it here. So you can get some of it here. For the rest of it, you got to go sign up to be a member at BuckeyeHuddle.com. But Alex, thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here. As you said, coaches are on the road this week. Ohio State kind of able to focus on some top recruits to finish out this 23 class strong, and excited to talk about those with you today.
All right, so let's talk about one of those top recruits, five-star defensive lineman Damon Wilson. He is a 2023 defensive lineman. There are 3 five-star defensive linemen we've been talking about quite a bit in terms of top targets for Ohio State for the rest of the 2023 class, which are Damon Wilson, Keon Keeley, and Mateo Uiagalelei. We're going to talk about Wilson today. He just had an official visit to Georgia. Now that this is where Ohio State has had him on campus. Now Georgia got him on campus, and that's always a little nerve-wracking when someone gets an official to a place like Georgia. How did that go? How was everyone around that recruitment feeling like things are standing with Damon Wilson right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, very, very rare that a kid's going to go on an official visit and come back and say, it was horrible. You're getting 5-star meals paid for, $100 steaks and lobster tails, and sure, there's girls and parties and great football and hanging out with, the staff and getting that red carpet treatment, being loved up the whole weekend, right? So the visit went great. Coming into the visit, I think Georgia felt that Ohio State was the leader. Alabama's in there, but they felt that Ohio State was kind of their biggest competition and biggest obstacle. Coming out of the visit, I was nervous we were going to hear Georgia's staff kind of very optimistic. We feel good about our position with Damon. And while I think that they feel that they made up ground, maybe even pulled, quote unquote, even with the Buckeyes, have a great shot, it's them or Ohio State, all those things are what I'm hearing from people who talk to Georgia's coaches, but they're not overly optimistic. I would say they're cautiously optimistic, if anything, and more so like, we are firmly in this. We now firmly have a shot. It's us or Ohio State. Alabama is kind of that third team dark horse. And I think that I take that as a positive because I think everyone thought coming off the Ohio State official, Damon was talking about maybe making a commitment in the next few weeks. It didn't happen. He goes to Georgia. Everyone kind of assumes, okay, well, he's just going to go to Georgia then. If Ohio State didn't convince him and he has to go to Georgia, he's going to Georgia. I think you only go through this process once. You owe it to yourself as a 17, 18-year-old kid to go and evaluate all the different options. Look, take your scarlet and gray colored glasses off. Georgia produces NFL talent year in and year out. They just had the number 1 pick in the draft as a defensive lineman last year, Trayvon Walker to the Jaguars, right? So this is a team that's going to compete for national titles, going to produce, top-end talent. This is a kid who's from Venice, Florida. So regionally, it makes a lot of sense. For him to not take an official visit to Georgia, I think would have been a mistake on his part. So I think he's coming home. He's going to sit down, his friends, his family, his coaches, whoever, mentors, whoever he relies on, weigh out the pros and cons and make a decision. He told Mark, when Mark went down there a few weeks back, he told Mark middle of October. It's October 11th as we're recording this. I wouldn't even consider that the middle of October yet. We're approaching it. So I wouldn't be shocked sometime in the next 2 weeks if Damon Wilson announces his decision. I think it will be Ohio State or Georgia. I'm not ready to make a call just yet. I want to see kind of how the dust settles after this visit. But I would call this positive for Ohio State that Damon Wilson didn't come back. And the Georgia coaches aren't even saying, we feel like we got him. So I think that's a positive update for Ohio State.
Yeah, the old no news is good news coming out of a visit to another campus is probably a good assessment there. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. As I said earlier, Mateo Uiagalelei, that's another name. That's another 5-star defensive lineman to keep an eye on for Ohio State for the class of 2023. The third one of those 3 guys was Keon Keeley. He visited Alabama last weekend. Alex had great info on that visit and where things stand with the Crimson Tide and everyone else chasing him right now, including the Buckeyes. You can find that in his ADEC column this week on the huddle board at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up today. It costs literally less than 50 cents a day. give it a month. I promise you're going to enjoy it. There's lots of great information there, lots of fun folks there. This is also going to be a pretty eventful month for Ohio State football. So sign up today at BuckeyeHuddle.com. All right, sales pitch done, at least for the moment. Now let's talk flips. Everyone, Alex, who doesn't love a good 5-star flip, at least when it's going in one direction? Couple Buckeyes chasing a couple big name potential flips out of the Deep South. One of them is safety Caleb Downs. He is someone who we saw at an Ohio State camp the summer of 2021. He was, looking very seriously at Ohio State. He is now committed in the SEC, but it's not signing day yet. Where do things stand with Caleb Downs and Ohio State's pursuit of him? Is that just kind of, message board, Twitter rumors, or is there maybe a little bit of smoke there to maybe Ohio State has a chance to pull another 5-star safety into this class?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be very clear because I don't want my comments to be taken out of context or go to social. And Alex Gleitman says that Ohio State's getting Caleb Downs. Ohio State might get Caleb Downs. I am not saying they will, but ever since he committed to Alabama, I've been reporting on this site that Ohio State was not going to give up. They felt like they had the best relationship with Caleb out of any of the schools. They just felt that, I guess I will say the defense wasn't a proven commodity, and it was hard for him to envision himself in this defense without ever seeing it. They felt like they needed a proof of concept to some extent. So they feel that with Jim Knowles rolling out this new defense and what they've been able to produce on the field thus far, they've got his attention. I mean, you look every week, I think Tanner McAllister, Lathan Ransom, Ronnie Hickman have made a ton of plays for this Ohio State defense over the first 6 games. They have the relationships. They've stayed in touch with Caleb. Now, can they flip him? I think what they need for that flip is a visit. There's only a handful, not even a handful of home games left. I think it's 3 home games left, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Iowa, Indiana, and the game against Michigan. I think if you're looking at any game, it's obviously that Michigan game they're going to use as a big recruiting weekend. Thanksgiving weekend, a lot of these guys aren't playing. It's the game that everyone wants to go to, especially after last year. So, I think that's where you got to look. Does Caleb Downs show up for that game? If he does, the door is absolutely open for Ohio State. If he doesn't, I'm putting it at less than a 5% chance. So if he shows up, I think the chances are very good, maybe as high as even 50%, that Caleb Downs could flip from Alabama to Ohio State. But if he doesn't show, I'm putting it virtually as 0. I think they need that visit, see everything up close and personal once again, even though he had the official visit over the summer, and try to close the deal. Bring your, you'll like this one, Tom, not your Edwin Diaz stuff, your Mariano Rivera stuff. Really not your Aroldis Chapman stuff.
Yeah. Three guys who are no longer pitching this season, yes. So in addition to Caleb Downs, Buckeyes also chasing Justice Haynes, a very big-time running back out of the South, currently committed in the SEC, and you get to go to find Alex's ADAC column on the Insiders board, the Huddle board at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Make sure you check that out, because yes, Caleb Downs is not the only big-time prospect out of the South that Ohio State is currently working on flipping, so you can find that in Alex's ADAC column from this week. Just overall right now, the class of 2023, Alex, is this, let's just use top 3 class, because it feels like there's sort of a separation between the top 3 in the sport right now and everyone else. Is this to you maybe more likely to be a top 3 class in the 2023 cycle than it was, say, a month ago, 2 months ago? Are they trending in the wrong direction, or is this kind of, they're sort of about where you have had them all along in terms of where you think this class ends up?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's probably, to me, there's no reason to panic and think they're not going to be where we thought we were going to be all along. Alabama's great recruiting school. Georgia's great recruiting school. Notre Dame's had a great year. I mean, I've had Ohio State no worse than a top 5 class. At best, a top 3 class. Probably not number 1, maybe from a numbers and, just a couple of positions they're a little light on that maybe they need to still fill. But I didn't think they were going to get number 1. I thought maybe 2 they'd have a shot at worst 3. Absolute worst case scenario, I still think they're a top 5 class. They're number 4 right now in the composite rankings. So I think they're absolutely about where I think they should be right now and where they're going to be. I mean, you probably need a couple more defensive ends, 2 more. You're probably looking at trying to get another linebacker. They might add another defensive back. That's probably it for the most part. I mean, they'll explore another lineman on the offensive side of the ball. They might explore another running back, but you're probably looking at somewhere between 3 and 4 more players in a class that numbers 20 right now. I think that's the world we live in with the transfer portal and the extra year with COVID still kicking in and things of that nature. You kind of probably that 23 to 25 number is going to be the range every single year. You might even be on the lighter side so that you have some roster flexibility heading into each season. But they're pretty much where I thought they were going to be. And I think it's, Ohio State fans, I'm sure you could nitpick and find some battles that you thought they should have won and whatnot. But I think you're going to be pretty happy come National Signing Day.
All right. And you are, of course, a New Jersey guy. So I'm going to ask you about a New Jersey guy who Ohio State offered this week, 2024 safety Valvo Toure. Let people know a little bit about him. I mean, that is a position that they are loading up on in that defensive backfield just on the whole. This in the 2023 cycle, 2024. What do you know? What should people know about Valvo Toure?
Yeah, I mean, he's a 6'1", 185 pounder, 4-star kid all the way, long legs, long arms, really rangy. He comes from a football family. His brother Fama, his older brother, or his 1 year older brother Fama, is a 2A star for Irvington, the same team he plays on. He's committed to Rutgers. He had a number of Power 5 offers. His older brother Muhammad Toure is a linebacker for Rutgers already. His cousin Kamoko Toure, spelled differently but pronounced the same, is actually a really great player for the Indianapolis Colts. So he also played at Rutgers. So obviously, Rutgers is going to be a factor here. You might laugh that off, but they're going to be a factor for sure. The interesting thing is his head coach, Smoke Pierre, is cousins with Ronnie Hickman, and very familiar with the Ohio State program. Obviously, loves what they've done with Ronnie from the safety spot. Valvo was at Ohio State. I think it was like last spring. The whole team stopped by on their way back from a 7-on-7, but he's going to get a better look at Ohio State next weekend. He's going to already go for the game against Iowa. So obviously real interest. He got the offer. He went out there. Perry Eliano was in New Jersey on Monday to see him, as well as, I'm sure a few others that they're recruiting out here. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I think if they want him, and which that's the question I need to figure out. Is this offer committable? Are they willing to take him? Are they going to, is he a top target? All those things. If they want him, I think this is a very winnable recruitment for sure. If they don't show him a ton of love or a ton of interest, maybe he does end up at Rutgers like the rest of his family members, which would be a great get for them.
All right. Well, the Ronnie Hickman's cousin, like that's the kind of stuff you only get from someone who is like really there on the ground, paying attention to the nitty gritty details of that kind of stuff. Alex is fantastic at that. So is Mark Giffler. We are very blessed to have a couple really, really fantastic recruiting insiders at BuckeyeHuddle.com. If you were at the point of this show where you are now listening to me wrap things up, you are obviously very invested in recruiting, which means you should just invest a little bit of money, less than 50 cents a day, at BuckeyeHuddle.com to become a member of our wonderful site. Get access to our huddle board where Alex posts his ADEC column every week, has much more information than we talked about here. Mark Giffler posts his Skull Session column every week, has a ton of great information there. And then just a bunch of posts throughout the week. You guys getting offers and what they know and what they're hearing and all sorts of great stuff, all sorts of great information from both Mark and Alex on the recruiting front. Devin and Justin and Ross absolutely killing it on the X's and O's front. Tony and Kevin and I covering the team. It is a fantastic group of folks at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up today. I promise you will enjoy your month and want to stick around. But give it a try for 30 days. It's going to be quite an eventful next 30 days or so for Ohio State football. And the best place to enjoy it all is at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.